This is a podcast brought to you by freevenezuela.org, an online movement to advance democracy in Venezuela.
Today, our guest is Eric Ekvall. He's a professional psychologist with more than 45 years working as an analyst and political advisor. Mr. Ekvall arrived in Venezuela from the U.S. 30 years ago as a member of the team of the famous political consultant Joe Napolitan, with whom he worked for 10 years. He has advised former Latin American presidents as Oscar Arias, Alan Garcia, y Lula da Silva, among others, as well as 3 presidential candidates in Venezuela. In recent years, he has become notorious for his criticism of the Venezuelan electoral system. Mr. Ekvall, what is the biggest challenge for the opposition right now facing the new elections in December 16?
Well, hi, Andres.
Hello, thank you.
First of all, it's good to be on the program with you. Thanks for coming. The opposition really faces 2 challenges at this point. One is to get out of the depression that it's in. The Venezuelan opposition is depressed. It's confused. It's lost the energy, and it's lost the enthusiasm and the optimism that it had 3 months ago, 4 months ago in the run-up to presidential elections. On the one hand. On the other hand, the challenge that the opposition has, the democratic opposition, and I don't mean necessarily the leadership of the opposition. I mean the people who are the rank and file opponents of Chavez, the middle class, the lower middle class, even the poor people, who have to pull themselves together and understand that the opposition leadership that has been basically in power for the last really 10 years, since 2002, 2012, is not going to be the opposition that's going to be capable of leading the charge against Chavez in any kind of way. And I could explain why that is. And it all boils down to the insidious relationship that the opposition leadership has had with the government itself. It's not a surprise to anybody who's an insider in Venezuela that the opposition parties are playing footsie with the government. The opposition parties are subject to coercion, to blackmail, to extortion, to being bribed, to being basically made inefficient, and that really is what that's really the reason for Enrique Capriles' defeat in the October 7th presidential elections. You'll recall, Andres, that in the run-up to those elections, all the polls showed that Capriles was leading. Not only was he leading, he had all the trends going for him. He was coming up, moving up, and eating up all the undecided votes. At last count, he was credibly 6 or 7 points ahead. And when I say 6 or 7 points ahead, I'm talking about polls that are conducted in people's homes, face-to-face polls, where in a totalitarian or quasi-totalitarian state like Venezuela, where we're living under a novel form of what some people call 21st century dictatorship, you don't know who's asking the questions. It could be an employee of the police. It could be from the Ministry of Information or from the Ministry of the Interior. So for people to have the nerve, to have the courage to say to a pollster that they prefer Enrique Capriles over Hugo Chavez, that's saying a great deal. Why Capriles lost and how he lost is a long story. I don't know if you want to get into that, but I'd say 2 months after these elections, where he lost instead of won, as you know, the opposition voters are confused, they're depressed, they don't know who to believe, and as you know, Andres, Christmas is a big season for getting out of Dodge here in Venezuela. Anybody who can afford to gets out of town, goes someplace else, goes to the beach, visits relatives in the interior. And these gubernatorial elections are set up just exactly a week before Christmas. So it's anybody's guess. I think there's going to be high rates of abstention, and I quite frankly think it's going to be a rout. I think the government is going to sweep the field in these elections, both on the regional gubernatorial elections and also in the regional legislative assembly elections.